G'day guys, and welcome to another ActionScript 3 Quick Concepts video tutorial. In this one, it's going to be the one that people were asking for the most. It's going to be making health bars, or should I say resource bars. So what we're going to be doing is building up one class, which is going to be like a resource bar, and we can change that resource bar as we need to fit our game that we're going to be making. So in this example, I'm just going to show you by testing this movie. We've got a health bar, mana bar, energy bar, and a fuel bar. Now, we're only going to be coding this once, but we're going to have so much flexibility in this class that we're going to make that we can change the color of the bar, we can change what resource we're tracking, we can change how much of our maximum resource it is that we have, as well as our current, and actually make it update on pretty much at different intervals as much as we need to based on what sort of game we're making. So in this energy type bar here, you can sort of imagine like a spaceship firing away missiles, and as it's firing away, energy slowly depletes, but then it gradually gets restored as the player does nothing. So this is just a small little simulation of what that could look like. But anyway, let's get started with this. I'm just going to close this down and open up my blank ActionScript file. So all I've got here is a blank AS3 file. It's got a document class of main, and I've set up a Flash develop project in here with main as that document class tied in. So let's get started from here. I'm going to head into Flash, and I'm just going to create a simple bar, and yeah, we'll keep it purple for the time being. Just going to create a simple bar using the rectangle tool, and I'm going to highlight this now and turn it into a movie clip by pressing F8. So we're going to call this main bar here, we're going to call it resource bar. And the reason why I'm not calling it health bar or mana bar is because it's typically a resource bar, and you can use whatever you want for this bar, whether it be health, mana, or energy, or whatever. So we're going to export this for ActionScript. It's going to say resource bar, and a very important step is make sure the registration point is in the left middle, because we want our bar to start from this area and grow outwards. So that's why the registration point's here. If you wanted your bar to go from the other way, you can set it to the right side. So go ahead and press OK, and I'm going to hop into my resource bar by double clicking on it, and we're going to turn this bar here into another movie clip. So we've got a movie clip inside of a movie clip. Bear with me, I know it might sound confusing, but we'll get there. So I'm going to highlight this, press F8, I'm going to turn this into a movie clip called MainBar. And I'm going to keep this registration point on the left side, but I'm not going to export it for ActionScript because we don't need to. So just press OK. And I'm going to give this an instance name of MainBar up here. And this is going to act as our movable bar in our resource bar. So this is going to be moving left and right depending on how much resource we have. So over in Flash Develop now, I'm going to create a new ActionScript file in here, and this is going to be called ResourceBar. And the base class I'm going to make it extend this time is actually going to be Sprite, so Flash Display Sprite. Whenever you're using whenever you're creating a class that's going to be extending something, you can always extend movie clip to be on the safe side, but if you're only ever using one frame of the timeline, Sprite is like a lighter weight version, and it's basically a little quicker version of the movie clip. So if you know you're only going to be using one frame, always extend Sprite instead of movie clip. So press OK to that, that's OK. Alright, so here's our resource bar class. So the first thing we're going to do is just what we've always done in the past, is check to make sure this bar is on the stage and then start running our actions. So listen for added to stage. I'm going to add an event listener to listen for added to stage. And we'll run to our custom function called onAdd. And I'll go here and create the event handler with Control-Shift-1 in Flash Develop. And now we're ready to start coding our bar. So the first thing we need to do is, if we look in our bar here, we're inside the resource bar, and we've got one clip on the stage at the moment which has an instance name of MainBar. So I'm going to declare it as a public variable up here because it lives on the stage, or lives inside this resource bar. So public var MainBar, and that's going to be a sprite as well because we're only using one frame. Okay, and we'll leave the resource bar as this is for the moment. We'll go back to our main page, don't need that, and we're going to create a new version of that bar to throw onto the stage just to make sure that we're working so far. Because if we look back on the stage here, I did declare it, so just delete that off the stage, and we should have it here in our library still, ResourceBar, so that's fine. Go back to the main document class, and we're going to create, we'll start off with a health bar here, so I'll call it HPBar, and that's going to be a resource bar type, and we're going to make a new resource bar. Add it to the stage by calling add child, and I'll just do some quick positioning. So HPBar.x will make it equal 400, and our HPBar.y will make that equal 250. So just save this and test it with Control Enter, and we've got a bar appearing on the stage, so that's good. So the next thing we want to do is we actually want to pass this bar a couple of parameters. So as soon as we create it, we want to be able to tell it how much starting energy we have, how much maximum energy we can have, and we'll leave it at those two for the moment. So our starting energy, we'll keep it nice and simple. We'll keep, say we're making a 100 bar. We'll start our energy at 100, so 100 health, and our maximum energy we can have is 100. So you might not have seen passing parameters yet. I don't think we've covered completely all of this yet in our classes, but what we're going to do is as soon as we create the bar, we're going to be sending these two values into it. So if we look back here in ResourceBar, this is our constructor method, and at the moment we're going to be accepting two parameters into these brackets here. So I'm going to create like a kind of like a doorway to let them into this class, and we'll give them names that they can take on so we can refer to them whenever we need to. So I'm going to call this first one n current power. Yeah, we'll call it power, and that's going to be a number. And then we're going to have an n max power, and that's going to be a number. So when we call upon this resource bar method, we're passing in 100 here, and that's going to act as our current power, and this other 100 here is going to act as our max power. So as soon as we send them into this resource bar class, we're going to catch them, and we're going to add them to the resource bar as private variables so we can use them whenever we need to. I'm going to say private variable, and actually we can use a shortcut in Flash Develop because we're using this, so might as well. In n current power, I'm going to press Control-Shift-1, and I'm going to generate a private field. I'll do the same with the max power, Control-Shift-1, and generate a private field. So all this does is it takes the current value that we're going to be sending in, and it's going to add it to our private variables up here. The only thing I don't like that Flash Develop does is that it puts this max power and it says max power is going to be the same, except it's referring to two different variables, but I don't like the way it sets it up. So what I usually do is, if there's a private variable in a class, I'll put an underscore in front of it, like that, and you'll see this naming convention in a lot of places. So I'll take out this from here and just set up a max power and current power like that. So we know that as soon as this variable gets sent in as max power, we're going to store it in underscore max power, which is part of this class. So the next thing we're going to do is set up an update method, which updates the bar based on the position of how much power we currently have in it. So as soon as we get added to the stage, I'm going to call update, which we haven't created yet, but I'm just going to go over it now and press Control-Shift-1 and generate a private function. In our update method, what we want to do is we want to change this bar. I'm just going to double click on my library version to go into it. Oops, ResourceBar. Yep. So we want to be able to change this bar's X scale. So if we scale it from here, you can see that, one sec, If you scale it from here, you can see that the bar scales down and up because this is where its origin position is. So what I want to be able to do is tell that X scale to change based on how much energy I have. So in this update function, I'm going to talk to my MainBar, which is a public variable. So MainBar, and we're going to set its scale X property to equal whatever our n current power is divided by our n max power. And that's going to return a value when you divide these two between 0 and 1, and that's exactly what our X scale needs. So 0% on the X scale is going to be all the way down here, and 1 for the X scale is going to be all the way at 100%. And fortunately, when we take a current power and we divide it by a maximum power, we always get a number between 0 and 1. So that's kind of handy. So let's test that this is actually working. At the moment, we're sending in 100 and 100. So let's press Ctrl Enter to test. And you can see the bar is full. Now suppose we're at 10% of our maximum health. So I'm going to save that now and test again. And you can see our bar is much smaller. But there's no way of telling how much our maximum health is. So let's change a bit of the graphics to make it look a little bit neater. So in my resource bar, I'm just going to double click on that again. This is our resource bar that we've got on our stage, which is, in our resource bar movie clip, which is going to be moving up and down. So behind it, I'm going to add a background layer. So I'm just going to, we'll hold down Alt and click and drag on the bar. That's going to create a duplicate of this, but then I'm going to press Ctrl B to break it apart, and then I'm just going to change this color to like a dark gray. That's almost black. Dark gray. Yep, that'll do. And then I'm going to position it into place where this bar is by using my Align panel. So down here, I'm going to make sure Align to Stage is ticked, and align it to the left edge, which it currently is, and then align it to the center. I'm just going to put it above our bar, but as soon as you click off it, movie clips always take precedence over shapes, so it's always going to be on top. So if we save our file now and give it a test, you should see at 10% our bar is here, but now we can see how much our maximum bar should be at. Okay, so what should we add next? Well, let's add some text display so we know what's going on. So I'm in my resource bar still. I'm going to use the text tool, and I'm just going to draw out a small area like that, and I'll just put a couple of standby numbers in there for the moment, so 100, and I'll position that up here on the right side, and I'll duplicate that by holding down Alt and clicking and dragging down. We'll make that our current health, and let's click and drag with Alt one more time up to the left side of the bar up here. And this text field I'm going to set as static because we're never going to be interacting with it, because this point is always going to be 0 on our bar. And I'll just tuck that in a little bit. So up here, this is going to be whatever our max power is currently equal to. So I'm going to give this an instance name of, say, max power text, and I'll give this an instance name of current power text. And just be sure to embed your fonts. I'm going to click on embed and make sure uppercase, lowercase, numerals and punctuation is ticked. Press OK. So that looks alright now, but once again we've got two clips that are inside of our class, and we've already declared them on the stage with names. So over in our document class, in our resource bar class, we need to make sure they're public variables up here. So public var, and what do we call that top one? Max power text. So max power text, and that's going to be a text field. Nope, typed that wrong. Text field, that's better. And then another public variable, That's going to be our current power text. I'm just going to copy and paste that. And they're both our text fields. So, as soon as we get our bar added to the stage, let's update our text fields. So we can set our current power text field to equal whatever our underscore current power is equal up to. And we'll set our max power text field dot text. I should change that one up here. Dot text. And that should be equal to whatever our max power is currently up to. So if we save this and give it a test, we'll get an error because we're trying to convert a number to be a string. So if I hover over this current power, you'll see in that little yellow box that pops up, current power is actually a number by the colon next to it. And if I look at the text, you can see that the public property text is a string. So I can't convert a number to be a string, and this is going to happen a few times with a couple of different scenarios. This is just one of them. The easy way to fix this in this example is that the text field is expecting a string and we're passing in a number. So what we can do is trick it by passing it a string first and then adding on a number. So I'm just going to pass it a blank quote mark and then add on our number. So when we save this and give it a test, you can see we've got 0 down here, 100 here, and we're currently at 10 power. So that's working. And one more thing I should do is down here, just make sure the text is not selectable. Otherwise you'll get that weird italic cursor like this come up over your game, and it doesn't look very good. So that's alright. Now when our text bar moves down to 10%, I want this current text bar to actually be where the width should be up here. So that way we can actually track it and it looks a bit more visually appealing, I guess. So this current power text, in our update method, what I'm going to do is set the current power text, its X position, to be whatever our MainBar's width is currently up to. So when we play around with the X scale of this, I'm just going to show this as a visual representation. When we play around with the scale and say it's up to here, the width now of this bar is 134. So it's going to set this X position to be 134, which is up here. So it looks like it's going to travel down with the bar. I'm just going to undo that and save that. So now when we give it a test, after setting up our X position, you should see that this text field now moves in line with the bar. So that's pretty good so far, but we don't know what type of resource we're tracking at the moment. So this could be anything. It could be fuel, energy, health. So let's get a text field in the middle here, which tells us what type of resource we're tracking. So I'm just going to duplicate this text field again, go back to the black arrow tool, and duplicate, hold down Alt and Shift to drag along the line, and that should be good. I'll just extend it out a little bit more, and I'm going to center align this text, and we'll call this resource text. Yeah, resource text will do. So over in Flash Develop, it now lives inside this class, so I have to declare a public variable. So text field for resource text, and we don't actually know what our resource is at the moment, so we should send it in to this class just like we did with our power and our max power. So I'm going to add another comma after this, and we'll call it resource, and that's going to be a string. So as soon as we get that in there, after we set our max power and current power, we can set our resource text fields text to be equal to whatever our resource is that we're sending into this function. And now we can go back to our main class, and if I put a comma after this 100, you can now see that our class is expecting a resource, and it's going to be a string. So I'll call this health. And now this health string is going to be passed into this function here as a code name of resource. And we can tell our resource to go ahead and set itself up with this text. So if I save this, give it a test, you can see now we've got health displaying up here for our bar. So that's working pretty well actually. So let's get a real sort of test happening now with our bar gradually fading out or gradually losing health. So let's head back over to our main class, and I'm just going to set up an event listener for an enter frame, and we're going to simulate a game playing and gradually losing health with this enter frame. So add event listener, enter frame, and we'll go to a function called onLoop. I'm just going to Control-Shift-1 and generate that event handler. So at the moment as well, we've got no way of actually changing the bar's health. We can set it up as 100, 100, which is what we're going to do right now. But how do we change it? So how do we decrease or increase values from it? So to do that, we need to make a handy little public function that we can use. So back over in ResourceBar, I'm going to make a public function down the bottom. And I'm just going to call it change. Oops. Change. And all this is going to be doing is accepting a number. So we're going to pass in a number called num. And with this number, we're going to change whatever our current power is up to. So we're going to say n, or change what our current power is up to. So our n current power, we're going to say plus equals, so whatever it currently is equal to, add this number or subtract this number. And that's going to be our num. And as soon as we do that, we should update our bar. So we know that the bar's been updated, it's going to change its scale x, and it's going to change the current power text as well. So we'll call update straight after we change our current power, because then it does all the math and calculates it where it should be from here. And that's pretty much it. So now we can use change down here. So I target my HPBar, which is not showing up because it's not a class member variable yet. Nice one. So just click over here in HPBar, press Control-Shift-1, promote it to be a class member, or just simply add private var HPBar ResourceBar up here and take away the var and the data type down here if you're not using Flash Develop. So now when we type in HPBar, it shows up in our code hinting, and I'm going to change our HPBar's amount. So let's just say every time our game loop ticks, we'll take away 1 away. So -1 from our health. So let's save this, give it a test. And it's kind of doing something weird. So let's figure out what's wrong with that. So our current power text is not updating. That's one of the things we saw. So over in ResourceBar, our current power text is not actually updating. So let's set our current power text dot text to equal n current power. So we'll use that trick again with the quote marks and adding on a number. So let's test this. Okay, so our health bar's counting down and then it's going backwards because we haven't put any stops on this. So let's fix up that as well. Back in Flash Develop, we're going to say, as soon as we get into the update function, we're going to test if our current power is above 0. So if, actually no, we'll test if it's less than 0. Current power is less than 0. So if our n current power is less than 0, then go ahead and set our current power to equal 0. So once we get to our 0 mark, we obviously don't want to travel any further than 0, so we'll just stop it right there. So n current power, n current power equals 0. So that's going to be a blocker. So as soon as we get to that end point, it should be fine now. Because if n current power equals 0, even if we do try to scale x, it's only going to be scaling it by 0 divided by max power, which will give us 0. Save that, give it a test, and that's looking pretty good. So we've got a health bar, and it's counting down. Perfect. Now let's create a couple more bars, and let's see another problem we're going to run into. So back over in main, we've got our HPBar set up pretty well. I'm going to copy all of that and just paste it down here. And let's set up a mana bar this time. So I'm going to rename our HPBar to ManaBar, and I'm just going to copy this and update the references from HPBar to ManaBar. And let's actually move it down the stage a little bit too, so I'll make that 350. And our resource is going to be mana. And let's have a lot of mana this time. So we'll have, let's say 20,000. Oops, 20,000, and we'll start off at 0, and this time we'll climb upwards. So when we access ManaBar, which once again I have not made a class member variable, so just click on ManaBar, Control-Shift-1, declare a private variable this time. You don't have to have the var and the declaration in front in order for this to work in Flash Develop, so just click on that and you'll still get the private variable and the data type entered up here, which is very handy. So our ManaBar, we're going to change the amount of the ManaBar, and we're going to add, say, 10 to it every time our enter frame ticks. So let's save this and give it a test. Well, it's definitely working. It is growing, but you know, our health bar is kind of purple and our mana bar is kind of purple as well, and you know, they typically would be different colors if you were making a game and you wanted to have a little bit more, you know, sort of design work in your game, I guess. So let's work out a way to change the bar color as well. So I'm going to head back over to Flash Develop, and right now we're passing in 3 variables. We can pass in a current health, total health, and we're giving a name as well. So let's pass in a color that we can change our bar to. So what I'm going to do is, after this comma, let's find a color that we're going to use for our health bar, and I'm going to pick a color from here in Flash. I'm just going to go over to the solid color area, and down in our swatch dropper, I'm just going to pick a red color like that, and actually a little bit darker red. No, let's go with that. So this is a hex color. We're going to grab this because this is what we're going to be using to tell our bar color to change. I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to add it after here with a 0x in front of it. The reason we put 0x in front of it is this is how Flash understands colors. It's called an unsigned integer, and that's what we're going to be accepting it in our resource bar, which we'll get to in a second. So that's a nice red color for the health. Let's pick a bluish kind of color for the mana bar. So let's go up here, and that sort of blue will do for the mana, maybe a bit darker. Yeah, that'll work. I'm going to copy that hex code, go back to Flash Develop, and put a 0x in front of it, and paste that in. So now these are the colors we want to set our bar to, so let's get that code working and set it up. So in our resource bar now, we're going to be accepting another parameter up here, and this is going to be our color. Depending on what country you're from, you can spell color without a U or with a U. So our color is going to be an unsigned integer, like that. And what we're going to do here is, as soon as we get into the class and after we set up our resource text, let's change the bar color. So in order to do this, we need to set up a couple of things first. The first thing we need is a color transform. So let's set up color transform object. So I'm going to start off by creating a new variable called CT for color transform, and this is going to be a flash geom color transform, and I'm just going to create a new color transform object. Then I'm going to set our CT's.color property to equal what color we're getting in from this variable. Okay, so now what we're going to do is set the main bar color. Set the main bar's transform color to be our color transform variable. Or color transform object, sorry. Okay, so we talk to our main bar. We set its transform dot color transform to be equal to our CT object that we created. So what this is going to do is it takes our color, it stores it into a color transform type of object. It's just a fancy little container. And then we change our main bar's transform color transform to be whatever color we've stored in here. So if we save this and give it a test, you should see now our health bar is red and our mana bar is indeed blue. So we've actually set up something very dynamic that we can use to create different types of bars. And just to prove that, we're going to create another two bars. We're going to create a energy bar and a fuel bar, for example. So I'm going to head back over to Flash Develop. In our main, I'm just going to copy this mana bar again. I'm going to paste it after here. And I'm going to change the resource type here to energy bar. And once again, just update the references. And this time, let's position it above our health bar. So I'll make it 150 on the Y. Our energy is going to go up to 110. And we'll give it a resource name of energy. And let's pick a nice color for energy. Let's go with a yellow. That'll do. Let's copy that hex number and we'll paste it in here. And then once again, I'm not going to forget this time to promote this or declare a private variable for our energy bar up here so we can access it down here. Now energy bar is going to start off at 0, go to 110. So our energy bar down here, let's change that. And we'll make it go up very slowly, say 0.1 every time. And this might actually introduce a new problem, but we'll see how we go. Let's save that and give it a test. Yep, so you can see here, as the energy bar is going up, we're getting a lot of numbers coming after it. This is because we're not exactly rounding up our values, because we're providing it with a decimal point number. So what we can do is, just going to go back into our ResourceBar class. And anytime that we change our current power text, let's wrap it in a math.round. So it's going to round out the number to the nearest whole number, and that should take care of that text. Let's save that and give it another test. And nope, I think I might have updated that in the wrong area, which I did. This is in the onAdd. It should be done here in the current power text. So I'm just going to copy that line over here. So math.round, current power. Now when we save it, give it a test, you can see our energy is going up much more smoothly with whole numbers. And you know what, I'll leave the fuel bar for you to create. I think you've got the general idea of how this works now. We basically just call upon a new ResourceBar class which we created. We pass it a current power and how much our maximum power is going to be. We give it a resource name type and then what color we want the bar to be. And then we just add it to the child and position it where we want to. And anytime, say, the player gets hit or it picks up a pickup or it does anything that interacts with your game, you can always call upon the change and then just pass it a number, and that's all you have to do to update your resource bar. So, oh, there's a nice little problem at the end. So if our resource bar gets too far, it's apparently going outside of our maximum cap range. So let's go ahead and fix that as well. That was just about to end the video there. Good thing I didn't. So our resource bar, if it gets lower than 0, we cap it at 0. So let's do another one in the opposite direction. Else if n current power, if it tries to get greater than our n max power, then let's just set our n current power to be equal to our n max power. So therefore, this current power can never get above our max power. It'll always be capped and set to whatever our max power is. Let's save that, and I'm just going to update the EnergyBar so it goes a little bit quicker. It's 0.5, and I might do the same with the mana bar. Make it go up by 100. Save that, and now health bar caps at 0, and both of our energy and mana bars cap out at their max. So there you have it. Energy bars, or resource bars, made for any type of resource that you want: energy, health, mana. Yes, hope you got something out of this, guys, and I'll see you again next time.